What's up everyone, it's the failed one. We are continuing some more Lamento. So, Conaway nodded at Asato's words. He wanted to get away right now. So we're surrounded by villagers. Because for some reason they want to kill us.
Conaway は右へ逃げろ。お前は話している暇はない。いいから早く。
Oh, we have a decision to make. What are you going to do? I understand. I'll escape. Let's go with what are you going to do? Because we're curious. We actually care about this Asato guy. He was really nice to us, and he's really good looking. So what is he gonna do? Letting us escape, and then what? Before Conaway could tell him to stop, Asato lowered his stance and plunged into the front line at full force. Asato smoothly drew his dark, gleaming sword.
Asato! 貴様何をする?
The elder was the first to raise his growling voice, then all at once the cats of Kira attacked Asato. As Asato began to fight back against them, he drew them to the left. Several remaining cats growled threateningly at Conaway. Clicking his tongue, Conaway immediately ran towards his right. He didn't know what was going on, but he didn't want to let Asato's efforts go to waste. He could feel them chasing after him. He had to escape, he thought, this fervently as he weaved through the night, slipping past the area dotted with houses. As if to tear through even his thoughts, one cat caught up with Conaway and slashed at him with his sword. Conaway pulled out his sword to immediately parry the blow, then retaliated. The cat staggered, then bared his fangs and lashed out at Conaway with his opposite hand. Sharp claws grazed Konaway's cheek. Thump, his heart beat harshly. It was coming, just as he thought. His emotional empathy, a sharp pain ran throughout his body. There was a weight on his chest as he tried to control his emotions. He clenched his teeth. Ooh. Become terribly sad. Feel strangely pleasant. Become horribly delighted. None of these sound very good. I think we'll go with become terribly sad. Because something just scratched us? We're hurt? The others are kind of weird. His chest was crushed. An extraordinarily sad feeling touched him, and he felt like tears would overflow from his eyes at any moment. Whenever the emotions clashed, it was like billowing waves filling him with a hatred. This feeling was completely different from what he felt with the bandits. It ran deep inside him like a profoundly muddy stream. It continued to crush his heart. Nevertheless, he couldn't stop. Conaway couldn't compare to the Kiran cats in build or fighting style. The other cats sped up and caught up with Conaway, their attacks accelerating to overtake him. One kicked off the ground and leapt at Conaway, swinging a large sword at him at full force. Conaway brandished his own sword and held it over his head to block the airborne attack. In a split second, the sharp tip of the thin sword was thrust out at his side. Conaway evaded by jumping to the side, then kicked his feet and pushed forward. Right in front of his nose was the cat who had struck at him just a moment ago. These cats are very violent and they really know how to fight. He lunged forward and met sword with sword. In a split second he growled threateningly and thrust his left arm out towards the cat's face. A scream rent the air. Conaway dug his claws into the cat's face, then moved his hand to the windpipe. Red oozed from the gaps between his fingers where he'd clawed out at the skin. Conaway is very violent as well, actually. He could feel the cat's hot pulse against the palm of his hand. But Conaway had no intention of killing him. There was no time. Conaway released his throat. the thick blood sticking to his hand shone in the edge of his vision. A ferocious impulse filled him, a growl escaped from his lips. At that moment, as if he'd lost the strength in his body, he fell to his knees as pain raged through him. Sweat trickled from his temple, down his cheeks, and dripped off his chin. Conaway didn't know if the grinding sound he heard was his teeth clenching or a headache. The Kirin cats were strong. Without caring about his own appearance, Conaway lifted his sword, bared his fangs, and ran off. Shaking off the cats pursuing him, Conaway ran from Kira as if tearing through the darkness. His feet felt slow. He stepped harder on the mud, aiming for the cliffs. He recklessly ran on. Dragging his tail, Conaway climbed up where the slopes were less steep. He pushed hard with his legs and desperately kicked off, never looking back. He climbed back up again. He finally made it up the cliffs and began to run a bit further, but suddenly his body relaxed. So, I don't know if we're going back the way we came, or if we are actually moving forward. Like a toy that had lost its screws, he abruptly fell to the ground. He felt leaves and twigs against his cheek, and he smelled the earth. His lungs felt like they were crushed, and Conaway took painful, labored breaths. He no longer saw the fog. The numbness made him fail to notice that the empathetic pain was relieved considerably, and he didn't feel the presence of any pursuers either. He raised his head and looked around. He was in the forest. He'd made it back. Yep. Conaway slowly took in deep breaths. So he left Asato, pretty much. Meanwhile, in Kira, the elder laughed triumphantly. Asato, who had lured away the rampaging Kirin cats, was cornered at the outskirts of the village. Oh no. I really hope he doesn't get hurt, and I really hope he actually follows us and continues on with our journey, because obviously he is not loved in this village. He was surrounded, their bloodlust overflowing. Everyone glared at Asato with frightening eyes. Many of them growled threateningly. Asato held his sword low and watched as the ring of cats surrounding him gradually tightened up. The elder growled with vicious disgust. As if also provoked, the surrounding cats slowly growled as well. Surrounded by this whirlwind of rage, Asato calmly observed the Kirin cats. Kira respected its families and honored its traditions and bloodlines above all else. Though they were moody, things rarely got rough. But then there was the case of the Meiji, the evil tribe with whom Kira was always on hateful terms. The eyes of the elder and the other cats were no longer sane. He worried about the sudden strange change. Asato remembered they'd called Conaway a spy. Was it true? No, it's not. He suddenly felt doubtful, but while he faced the cats surrounding him, a shadow suddenly blurred his vision and then disappeared. It was a tall shadow that stood some way off in silence. Vivid red hair swayed in the dusky breeze. It appeared to be observing them. Red hair? It seemed to be laughing. Was it a cat of Kira? Asato wondered if there was such a person here. He strained his eyes uncomfortably. I can't say that word for some reason. Something stuck up from its temple, too sharp to be an ear. Wait, could it be? The elder spat with a sneer. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, he is not loved in this village at all. Asato immediately looked at him. He forgot about that shadow. The sound of something breaking tore him from his calm thoughts. Encouraged, they began to speak one after the other. Their words weighed on him in succession, words full of malice, words that Asato did not want to hear. Unbearable impulses rose inside of him. Intense rage spiraled up his spine and burst out, rushing out of him. Asato couldn't take it any longer. He could take no more than this. Is he gonna do something bad? I am. I am not a monster.
Yamero.
Asato's voice sounded like it was writhing over the earth. It cracked. He unconsciously bared his fangs. His entire body stiffened and trembled. He desperately tried to hold back his rage, but he couldn't restrain himself. Asato glared at the cat surrounding him, strange sensations flooding over him. From the depths of his stomach, he let out a roar. The deep howl made the cats of Kira freeze up. Why? The cat stepped back, eyes fearful as if awoken. What? The elder bitterly clicked his tongue and daringly stepped forward out of the retreating circle. What is going on? I think the elder is the only one here that actually knows what the hell is going on. He hissed softly in threat and calmly regarded Asato.
よく聞け。あの猫を逃がしたのはお前だ。お前の責任だ。奴をここへ連れ戻すか、もしくは殺せ。名義のものであれば生かしておくわけにはいかん。
That's a pretty harsh threat.
これは命令だ。失敗は許さん。
He finished speaking, emphasizing his final words, then looked to the Kiran cats to signal them back. The rings surrounding Asato dispersed, and the black flames faded from the eyes of the Kiran cats. The intense impulse burning in Asato's body disappeared as well, but he kept staring intensely at the elder and the village cats. The elder had ordered it. For the cats of Kira, it was something tied to their very blood. It was absolute. Disobeying a command was like defiling the existence of Kira. They didn't know any other way to live. The thought of abandoning Kira, just thinking of it, it seemed like a fate worse than death. Asato was no exception. Even if everyone hated him and Asato cursed the thought, he could do nothing but obey. It was etched into his very consciousness. But sometimes you have to break tradition. I know it sucks, but sometimes it's the best thing to do, or else everything is always going to end up like this.
分かったら早く行け。
As if resisting, Asato bared his fangs and growled lowly, but in the end he turned his face away as if something was leading him. Without looking back, he ran through the dispersed ring of Kiran cats. Past the elder, he ran in a direction where Conaway had escaped. It was an order. Conaway, the cursed cat, different from the people of Kira, kill him. If you didn't kill him, Asato wouldn't be able to return to its village. As if to reassure himself, he repeated that to himself over and over while he ran from the dark village. Kill Conaway. It was simple. Why should he hesitate to kill a cat he'd only just acquainted with the day before? If what the elder said was true, and Conaway really was a Meiji, then he couldn't let him escape with his life. But he had such pretty eyes. Asato remembered them vividly. When they faced each other, Conaway's eyes were honest and afraid. And unafraid. Yep, just keep thinking of them pretty eyes and fall in love with him. They'd startled him when he first saw them. They were strong-willed and powerful. The light that shone in the eyes of the Kiran cats was brave, but it was nothing more than the urge to fight and kill. They were empty. Besides that, Conaway had also said he was beautiful too, someone like him. Unable to stand these emotions any longer, Asato grit his teeth. Why was he so conflicted? He had to kill him. He would kill him. It's them feelings of love getting to you. Asato solemnly told himself only that. And we're back in the forest. Dragging his weary body, Conaway pushed aside the tall grass. In the depths of the forest, he leaned against the trunk of a tall tree and let out a quiet sigh. He sat down without thinking of anything, but luckily the place hasn't been touched by the void yet. He didn't want to move. Anything else seemed impossible. Conaway instantly closed his eyes. When his view was shut off, his other senses became sharper. The cold wind rocking the tree tree tops tickled the fur on his ears. What happened to the cats of Kira? The hair all over his body stood on end as he remembered the ferocity of their emotions. Something was wrong. Of course something was wrong. He'd felt the same thing with the bandits too. Suddenly he remembered that clown, Fury. The presence of a third party, someone whose name or face Conaway didn't know, was watching him, laughing, beckoning. Manipulating him. The thoughts flooded into his mind suddenly. Could that be it? But one thought struck him above anything else. The bandits and the Kiran cats had also been manipulated, but why? For what purpose? This series of events seemed like a nightmare to him. It was too strange, so Conaway was unable to connect the realities inside him. He couldn't tie them together. Conaway wondered if back in Kira, Asato was alright. He was kind to him and had helped him escape. When they were surrounded, the Kiran cats had turned their hatred towards Asato. He could never forget the eyes of the Kiran elder, watching Asato like he was looking at something detestable. Well, that is actually really horrible. And this guy's supposed to be the only one who actually likes Asato? At least that's what Asato thinks. Conaway pulled a flask from his drawstring bag and lapped up some water. The lukewarm water didn't quite quiet his muddy thoughts. Conaway sighed. From between the dark trees, the pale light of the night moon quietly poured down. He felt like it had been an insanely long time since he'd seen it. Even though he probably shook the Kira cats chasing him, there may have been more pursuers. He always kept his ears pricked to survey his surroundings. It sucks when you can't just relax. The sound of the wind, a strange cry from the stirring trees. Apart from that, he didn't hear anything in particular. Slowly, Conaway laid down. His empathy pains had completely dissipated now. He'd rather just have all his feelings disappear from his own soul. He wanted to be freed. If he could do that, he wouldn't suffer so much. The words sank little by little into his exhausted thoughts. Then a sound pushed in. Different sounds. Conaway jumped up. His ears twitched. Footsteps, a sound of the trees and plants being pushed aside, and the earth being kicked up. Something was running at great speed. It was coming this way. A pursuer from Kira? His body was heavy as lead, but he immediately got up to run away. A dark mass leapt out of the foliage. Dark mass? His body tangled with his own, and they fell to the ground. Hissing in violent threat, they grappled with each other, aiming for hair and skin. Who is this? No one couldn't recognize the figure. For a moment he wondered if it was a monster, but there was something familiar about its scent. Their throats shouted with heated growls. Even though they brandished no weapons, they fought wildly. Conaway bit the ear of his opponent, who'd pinned him to the ground, then kneed him in the stomach with all his might. A growl of pain and anger sounded from overhead. Conaway felt an ache at his throat too. It had been bitten. Claws sank into his shoulder. In the middle of their fight, something flowed into his chest, the emotions of his opponent. Conaway tried to control himself so they didn't enter too deeply, imagining an invisible wall in his soul that blocked them out. Don't come in. But while he struggled against his opponent, Conaway felt a mysterious feeling. He knew this feeling well, a familiar emotion that came in waves.
Asato!
I was about to say that too. Asato! Before he could process the thought, Conaway blurted out the name. Asato's body twitched. Asato, just like he thought. He was slightly relieved, but just for a moment.
Chorus.
He's turned into them. Conaway's eyes widened at the low mutter in his ear. Kill him? Why? Conaway tried to reflexively hold on to doubt, but his thoughts soon changed. It made sense if he thought about it, because Asato was also a Kira cat. Still, he was considerably shocked when he began to consider it more. Conaway remembered Asato's modest and reserved gaze. Conaway was confused, but suddenly a strong pain surged through his shoulder. He'd been bitten. He grimaced in pain. This was real pain, and there was no time to think. If he wasted any more time, he'd be killed. Clenching his teeth to bear the intense pain in his shoulder, Conaway gathered up his power in his lower abdomen. He clung to Asato's body and kicked his knee in the other cat's stomach with all his might. Once, twice, he felt the presence of his breathing begin to fade. The fang sunk into his shoulder, pulled away, but a hand now tightened around Konoe's throat. It closed in, strangling him. His sight blurred from the oncoming suffocation. In his dimming view, Konoe's eyes met Asato's for the first time. When their eyes met, he almost relaxed. And this is why we shouldn't have left him, although we didn't really have a choice. Oh, he looks so sad. There was no hatred or anger in Asato's eyes. Asato's face was frowning as if he were about to cry. It wasn't from the pain of Konoe's attacks. Asato's eyebrows were knitted tight and he looked like a helpless child who was doing something terrible. Even while he made such a face, Asato steadily constricted Konoe's throat. Konoe needed to stop him. Konoe lifted one hand with what was left of his strength and lashed out at Asato's face. A low growl sounded and the tightening on his throat loosened. He used both hands to push away the cat on top of him, crawling along the ground to escape from Asato. Trying to catch him again, Asato reached an arm out towards him. When Konoe twisted his body, he saw a tail with short black hair out of the corner of his eye. With no time to think, he grabbed it and bit the tip. Oh no. What you gotta do to survive. Asato let out a yelp of pain as he trembled and fell down. The tail was a weak spot, but while he was trying to catch Konoe, he seemed to have become a bit careless. After throwing Asato off him completely, Konoe clung to the ground, hung his head, and coughed violently. Konoe couldn't shake the feeling of bile rising in his throat, and he felt nauseous. Several drops of saliva spilled down. He felt someone getting up behind him and looked back. He was still determined. His tail stood on end and bristled out. Asato knelt down. His shoulders were rising and falling heavily with his breathing, and he bared his fangs while glaring at Konoe. In addition to a murderous urge, though, Konoe saw perplexed light flickering in his deep blue eyes. At least he gets it and he won't just attack him anymore. He was all over the place in thought and in action. Konoe thought this as he looked into Asato's eyes. Still confused, Konoe stared Asato down as if to challenge him. That was the plan. Asato's shoulders shook in surprise. He clenched both hands into fists. His awkward words staggered as he gasped for air. Konoe narrowed his eyes and watched Asato. Why did he seem so pained? They'd only exchanged a few words over the course of the night. He wanted to know what Asato was feeling, and not just through his barely restrained empathy. If he did, he'd know, but he didn't want that. He wants to know the real way. He wants Asato to tell him. But Asato feels this way because Konoe is the only one who ever said anything nice to him, probably his whole life. Konoe didn't want to use that power to peer into the hearts of others. He didn't ask for that. He wanted to speak, to hear it expressed through words. When he tried to ask, he was unable to. There was the sharp sound of something slicing the air, and when they faced each other, a dazzling light shot past him. He was blinded. And I'm gonna leave this episode over here. I have no idea what... Konoe cannot catch a break this episode. Pretty much from fighting from one thing to fighting to another to like literally he can't let his guard down because no matter where he looks, someone is trying to kill him and attack him. And now this dazzling light comes through. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Who knows? But I'll see you guys next time. Bye!